Hush up. Alrighty. Yeah, you tell him, old rooster. Anyways, not overly a good subject today, but it's one people don't talk about, and it's one that does happen. It definitely ain't common, but either way, let's just jump into it. The question is, have I ever shot a dog while I was rabbit hunting? You know, being more specific, during a rabbit hunt, accidentally shooting a dog while rabbit hunting. Now, on purpose, we're not going to discuss that right now, but anyways, like I said, accidental rabbit hunting, dog shooting, or whatever. Have I ever done it? And the short answer is yes, I have done it. And I know there's a lot of people out there saying there's no excuse for that and this, that, and the other, but hear me out. Hear me out. We'll just tell the stories first. I got 2 instances of this. We'll tell the stories, and we'll have a conclusion on it. So the first time, I think I was 15, and I'd already been rabbit hunting for about a year. And we went out to some spot, and I was at there was a spot where a field came around, and then there was a road going into the woods right here, and I was kind of sitting on the corner where I could look down that road and I could look down this field right here. Well, this guy, he had a young dog, and you know, up until this point, I'd only hunted with, like, you know, grown dogs. And I'm, you know, used to being out there, the dogs running, whatever, coming when they start bringing the rabbit back to you, you shoot him or whatever. Well, I was sitting there, or I was standing there, and it was a super early morning, kind of, well, about like it is right now, maybe a little earlier, but you know how the dew in certain times of the winter, when that sun's hitting, it's just glistening, shining everywhere, it kind of obstructs your vision a little bit. But either way, it's just me making excuses, I guess, but either way. So I was there, everything's glistening around me, and I'm looking in the, you know how next to the edge of the woods it gets real thick, and there's real thick cover right at the edge of the woods. They call it a field edge sometimes. And I was sitting there, and the dog's out there running, kind of coming back, and I see something just kind of pop, 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 moving a lot like a rabbit. And it got about 7-8 yards from me, but it's still, I can't really make out what it is. That's how thick this is. And I'm sitting there looking at it, trying to figure out what's going on. And by the time it turns into just like a rabbit does. They kind of, swamp rabbit especially, they'll creep up on you. And if they realize something's wrong, they go, you know. And so I just raised up and I shot, boom! And that's, you hear one of the most sickening things a dog hunter could ever hear, you know, just boom. And I was like, oh God. And so I immediately, you know, just instinct kicking in. One is, I was shooting a single shot, and it's just like somebody would have shot a pump action, boom, you know, a single shot, boom, you immediately breech it open, you know, if you're proficient with one. And I breached open. I remember the shell didn't jack out, and then I heard the dog was squalling and everything. But remember that's going to be crucial later in this story. So anyways, I had to jump down about 20 yards and jump inside the woods there. And when I did, the guy who owned the dog, he wasn't standing 5-6 yards from that dog. It was so thick, me and this guy wasn't 15 yards from each other, and I couldn't even see him. So once again, it's a little bit too thick probably to be shooting in. Don't you call me out, rooster. So it's probably a little bit too thick to be shooting in, really, especially if you didn't know what was going on. But 90% sure ain't 100% sure, and you got to remember that. But either way, I went in there and the guy was just standing there. He wasn't saying nothing. He wasn't even looking at the dog. He was looking at the rest of the dogs. I don't know if, I mean, he cared about the dog. It's just I don't think he didn't want to see that, I don't think, personally. And I didn't know what to do, so I was just standing there. I was like, do I help the dog? What do I do? You know, I was young. I didn't know. It wasn't really a panic moment, just kind of a freezing moment. But either way, he finally turned around. He had a little hate in his voice, and I can't blame him for having a little hate in his voice. Now, rooster, hit him right in the wing. I couldn't do it again, save my life. So anyways, like I said, the guy turned around, he had a little hate in his voice. So I've been sitting there 30 seconds or a minute, I'm guessing. It felt like that or more. And he said, well, go check on her. His little old female beagle he had. So I start walking over there, and by this time the dog has done came to its senses, quit freaking out, and it just turned around and took off in the woods. And there's some even thicker stuff, and there wasn't no getting it back at that point. And I felt like crap the rest of that day. I was walking around, you know, I was kind of hunting, but I really wasn't hunting. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't trying to kill nothing. I felt like crap. And like I said, I didn't know what to do, so I ain't never been around that before. It was my first chance with it, and daggum, I was the one doing it, you know. But it is what it is. So finally, the day rolls around, and back to the shell thing. We'll cover that first. The shell inside the gun, remember how I said the gun jammed on me? Well, the guy, not the guy's dog I shot, but the guy who was kind of my mentor or whatever, got me into rabbit hunting. We was all hunting with him, you know. He gave me some shells. He called them reload shells, which is just reloaded shells. It's just his terminology for it. That somebody he knew had made, and they'd put some special kind of powder in them, slow burning, something, I don't know. Well, long story short, that shell malfunctioned. When it wouldn't eject or whatever, the brass had actually split, and when I finally got out, there was a whole bunch of unburnt powder in there. So I'm thinking that shell, because that dog wasn't far from me at all, which you'll find out, that's another part of the story later, but that dog wasn't far from me at all. And the fact that it did survive, just throwing that out there, and the fact that it survived just shows that shell wasn't doing its job. Let's put it that way. Was not doing its job. But either way, so that shell kind of saved that dog's life. But either way, back to facing up to everything. So I went up. Like I said, we all got done hunting. We was meeting up back at the truck. My mentor told me, he's like, hey, you need to go over there and offer to pay for that dog. He said that's the right thing to do. So, you know, it finally came around to it, and I went up there to that guy, and I was like, well, so what owe you for that dog? And this part right here is stuck with me pretty hard right now, because this is a man whose dog puppy he was training, I just shot, okay? And I say puppy, you know, 5-6 months old, whatever, but regardless, that I had just shot or whatever. And I asked him what I owed him for it, and he told me he don't owe me nothing. He said just don't let it bother you too much and keep on hunting. And that is stuck with me hard to this day. I mean, hard to this day. And I mean, I hate feeling sorry for myself, but I mean, daggum, I'd already been emotionally hit pretty hard once that day, and the man that hit me hard that time. He'd lost a dog, didn't care nothing about that. He cared more about me taking up the hunting and keeping it going, keeping the sport alive. He cared more about that than he did a dog he'd put 5-6 months into, plus all the breeding and everything else, you know. That stuck with me. And that story is, I've heard it several different times about other different rabbit hunters. We care more about the sport than we do somebody just randomly shooting one or whatever. Even my mentor, I knew, I found out from one of my deer customers later on that another guy that was hunting with him before I was hunting with him accidentally shot at the pup. Same thing, you know, his was running through some beams or whatever, he didn't know. But he just, dog's out there barking, something's running in front of him, boom, you know. Same scenario. But either way, he pretty much told him the same thing. He just made him, he said, every time I go rabbit hunting, he said, you got to go with me, which is basically the same thing. But either way, it is what it is. Rabbit hunters, we tend to care more about the sport. And that's a very good thing in my opinion. But either way, he told me that. And later on that evening, we got done hunting, went back, put dogs up. And later on, we give it time. We loaded up, we went back down there to try to find this dog, and we did finally end up finding her. There's an old trick amongst dog hunters where if you lose a dog or something, you take a coat or something's got your scent on it and lay it off in the bushes somewhere. Now this works like a charm now, ain't this? You don't believe me, just take a dog out and try it sometime. But you can take an old coat or something and you can lay it off in the bushes or somewhere close to where you parked, kind of hid in case you don't want nobody stealing your dog. But just put it off in the bushes somewhere, and that dog, it'll eventually get lost. It doesn't know what to do. It got taken to a spot and turned loose. All it knows is this spot. All it knows is where the truck was at. So they'll come back to that. They don't find you anywhere, but they find something's got your scent on it. They'll be sitting on that coat when you come back, if you come back within a day or two. That works like a charm. I mean, like back before I had Garmin's, that was a good thing. It worked like a charm, I'm telling you. So we went back, we found the dog, and she's still a little hard to catch, but we actually got her on the riverbank and caught her. And took her to the vet, and she had two beads stuck in her ear, and she had one or two stuck in her arm. And the vet even told us, he said, they're just gonna work out. Now I like an honest vet. I like a vet that'll tell you, oh, that's just gonna work out, no big deal. They're gonna push yourself out, or a vet that'll tell you, say, that dog ain't worth saving, just go ahead and take care of it. An honest vet is priceless. And if you get a hold of one, you need to treat them like gold and be nice to them. There's plenty of vets out there that'll, oh, we need to do surgery, we need to do this. Find you an honest vet. They're worth their weight in gold, I'm telling you. But either way, that was the story of the first time. A little bit of recap on that. Was that my fault? 100%. That was definitely my fault. There's no excuse on that one. I wasn't 100% sure. It was awfully thick. And that was all my decision. That was completely wrong of me. I done a very bad thing. But I learned. And then that guy told me not to let it bother me, keep on hunting. And by God, here I am 15 years later. I probably got some of the best dogs around. If only that fella knew what he done to me. It worked. It was effective. I'm still rabbit hunting, so was it worth the dog? I don't know. That's a rough one to answer right there, because I am more than into it. I'm definitely still rabbit hunting, so there was good and bad with that dog getting shot. I don't know. That's a gray area. But either way, that was the first time. At least that had a happy tune to it. Now the second time, we're talking years later. I was probably right around, if I had to guess, 22, just throwing a number out there. So we're talking 7 years later. I've learned a lot. I'm a lot more experienced of a rabbit hunter. I've actually got beagles at this point. At 15, I didn't have dogs. I was just hunting, whatever. But I've got dogs. I'm maintaining dogs. I'm breeding dogs. I'm a rabbit hunter at 22. Long story short, if a man can maintain a pack. He's a well-rounded rabbit hunter, let's put it that way. If a man can maintain a pack, have puppies, raise them puppies, train them puppies, and do a good fine job at it, and he still knows how to get ahead of a rabbit, kill a rabbit, that's a well-rounded rabbit hunter. He's a rabbit hunter and he's a houndsman. He's all wrapped up into one. He's well-rounded. But that still ain't no excuse for what I'm fixing to tell you. Now, buddy of mine, he decided he wanted to get into rabbit hunting, so I can't remember if he already had the drive to be a rabbit hunter before me, but I definitely pepped him up, let's put it that way. Took him out hunting once or twice, and it wasn't long he got him some beagles. And he had them for a little while. He liked them old lemon dogs. Well, anyways, that ain't the dogs we're talking about. This was opening day one year. I guess I was about 22. And we decided we was gonna get up and hunt, so we went hunting on his place. And he had recently acquired a dog, a young dog, super young, 10, 12 weeks old, you know. And y'all starting to see an underlying theme here. But it's 10, 12 weeks old. And I think it was his little old female beagle, I remember that. And the guy he bought her from, he was odd. That's just all there was to it. When he went to sell dogs, he charged more for his male puppies than he did his female puppies. So if I don't tell you just how odd of a fella we're talking about here, I mean, my goodness. But either way, he was more odd than just that sense or whatever. He also thought there wasn't no rabbits around, but anybody that tells you that in our area is crazy, because I still go out and kill plenty. Your dogs suck is what's going on. So, but anyways, I ain't trying to bash nobody too bad, but your dogs suck. So anyways, he bought this female. I think it's 75 bucks for the female. So we went out hunting, and we came to this one spot in particular. It was kind of a sloping bank, not a heavy slope, just a slight slope, not much. There was an old barn up yonder. I don't think it was in use anymore. It's falling down. I think he even told me coons was living in it. But either way, there's an old barn sitting there, and the weeds grown up all around it. I mean, weeds belly button high, you know. And we're sitting there. He didn't take a gun, and I took a gun. And the bank's kind of sloping this way, and the road is up there and beside us. You know, he's sitting up there on the edge of the ditch on the road where he's got a better vantage point. And I'm sitting down here where I think a rabbit might try to slip out, because them dogs out there running around that barn on the back side of it, and they're coming back. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm probably kill this rabbit. And I actually seen the rabbit. The rabbit, it was so thick, that rabbit came out like 1.5 feet from me, seen me, and was gone just quick. I mean, like a flash. And he run back off in there, and I didn't have time to raise my gun, really. And my buddy seen me get ready and tense. He's like, you see that rabbit? And I said, yeah. I said, he came here and he run right back towards the barn. And it's about 30 seconds or maybe a minute later. There's something about that 30 seconds to a minute time in this story, ain't there? But anyways, he's like, hey, there he is. I'm like, and I'm looking at him like, where? He said, in between me and you. Well, let's say you're him. I look in between me and him, and I see the weeds moving. And he's probably a good 25 yards from me. So whatever's next to me ain't 7, 8 yards. But like I said, I couldn't even see a rabbit until it's 1.5 feet from me. So I definitely ain't gonna see nothing, no 7, 8 yards. But I knew about how tall the weeds was, so I just aimed at the bottom of the weeds and pulled the trigger. And nothing happened. So I jacked up another shell and I shot in there again. It's opening day, I was jizzed up. But I didn't do it in a panicking way. I shot a second time thinking, okay, well, sometimes a rabbit you'll shoot and they'll just sit there like, what in the world? So just to be safe, I went ahead and shot another time. It was unnecessary, but I don't want you thinking I done it in a freaking out way. You know what I'm doing? Boom, I'm gonna die. You know, I didn't do that. It was boom. Well, maybe just in case, you know. It was methodical. So anyways, I go walking over there and I look down and there's this little puppy just laying there. I mean, deader than a doorknob now. Just D-E-D dead. I was like, oh crap. So I was like, I called my buddies like, hey man, come on down here. And he goes, did you get him? You know, he had a big old just crap eating grin on his face. I was like, man, just come on down here, just come on. So he just come walking on down there, and I'm pulling my wallet out. He comes up and he shows up and he goes, oh God. I'm like, man, I'm sorry. And I knew he paid $75 for it, so I pulled out $75 and I give it to him like, man, I am so sorry about that. And I was apologizing to him. Now, in all fairness, come to find out that rabbit that he seen wasn't in between me and him. It was up that bank closer to the barn. Now, he should have said in between me and him up the hill a little bit, or on the side of the hill. That would have worked a lot better. But he didn't. He said it was in between me and him. I look between me and you and I see weeds moving, and yeah, I'm taking your word for it. Yeah, well, we'll touch on that later. But anyways, come to find out, that's where he actually seen the rabbit. And I'm sitting there apologizing to him, telling him, man, I'll bury the dog, I'll do. And I did bury that dog for him. So I was the grave digging was a bonus. But anyways, I'm sitting there apologizing to him. Well, about that time, you know, you gotta understand this scene right here. There's a dead puppy laying here. There's me and him talking. I'm real mournful, apologizing about it. About that time, that rabbit, but right about where my buddy was standing, goes running down the ditch trying to get away. I'm like, man, boom! I'm so sorry. I killed that rabbit, by the way. So anyways, we done all that. I buried the dog. He paid him $75, and I felt so bad about it. I actually got a hold of him later, because he really had a male dog he really wanted from that guy that he bought the dog, his puppy from. And I asked him, I was like, you want one of them male dogs pretty bad? He said, yeah. I said, well, if I just give you another 50, I said, that make me feel a little better. You can go up there and get the male you want. You go and replace the big one you lost. He said, well, if you want to, you can. So we did. I went up there and met the guy, and that made me think he was even more odd. I mean, that was like the nail in the coffin. Like, he's a different dude. But anyways, so that was the second time that I'd shot a dog or whatever. Now, was that my fault? Technically, yes. I wasn't sure about it, but I don't feel bad for that one, because dadgummit, you tell me something's in between me and you know what I'm saying? Tell me it's a rabbit. Yeah, that's you could have been a little more descriptive and a lot more honest. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, I don't feel too bad about that one. I paid for that one too, so whatever. Now, let's just have a closing. What's some of the final thoughts? Now, some of you, the quick thing to jump to is, well, you shouldn't take puppies out hunting. And you shouldn't shoot if you ain't sure what you're shooting at. Yeah, you're wrong about the puppy thing. I mean, y'all seen my videos. I'll take them out when they're tiny. The sooner you start them, the sooner you get results. And I'm a firm believer in that. And the more experience you can get them, the more miles you put on them, the better. It don't matter if they're even running when you take them out when they're little. Just take them out. Put the miles on them. You'll have better dogs, I promise you. But anyways, so that's completely discredited. That's stupid. Take your pups out if you want better dogs. If you want to be safe and you're just trying to enjoy it for your sake, do it however you want. But it ain't just about me. The way I look at it is a lot about the dogs too. They want to get out there. They want to hunt. And the better I can make that dog, the way I look at it, the better justice I'm doing for that dog. Because it takes a lot of miles to make a dog good. It really does. So if you got good dogs, it generally means you put a lot of time into them. When you put a lot of time into them, I feel like you've done that dog better. That means you got him out of the pen more, you played with him more, you petted him more, he was good to that dog more. So, generally speaking, good dogs have got better life. Good hunting dogs, good skilled dogs have had a better life, generally speaking. So, I don't feel ashamed for taking pups out at all. However, like I said, you think you don't need to be taking young pups out, like I said, discredited right there. As far as shooting at something you ain't completely 100% aware about, yes, I have strict up majorly on my shot choices. Because in the beginning, like I said, if it moved like a rabbit, it's probably a rabbit, you know. Well, I've got away from that, because I started training pups and getting around pups. I learned that lesson quick. So then I started going like, okay, I'll just, you know, if everybody agrees it's a rabbit, okay, I can shoot at it. Well, that didn't work out neither, because a buddy said it was a rabbit and it wasn't a rabbit. So that didn't work. Now, if I ain't 100% sure, I don't shoot at it, period. Now, I will agree on that one. If that's y'all's mindset, I'll agree with you too. If you ain't 100% certain if that's a rabbit, do not shoot. I'm a firm voucher of that. That was 2 rough lessons I learned. And if y'all are getting into rabbit hunting, anybody's new to it or thinking about it, ain't no dog worth a rabbit. Just remember that. Ain't a truckload full of rabbits worth a dog. I'm telling you that right now. So I did learn that one. Now, some people have got another screwed up philosophy, and I'm just going to disagree with you on this. You do it how you want, but I don't agree with you. A lot of people's going to bring up this point, like, hey, well, you don't never shoot a rabbit on the jump. Well, neither one of these was shot on the jump, so that's not going to solve it. That wouldn't have saved either one of them dogs, because both the times dogs were circling, kind of coming back, and that's when the puppies end up getting shot. So that's discredited completely right there. Some people say put bells on dogs. I don't do it personally, but to my feel, I ain't ever used them, but I feel it would affect their hearing after a while, and I feel that it would make them harder to call back, because the beagle, his head ain't but that far from the leaves. You got to understand, and when he's on the leaves smelling, if he's barking, he's stepping, he's making racket, he can't hardly hear you call. That's why when I call, if y'all have heard my videos before, you know, I got that real loud, super loud. It echoes off hollers and stuff. Man, it'll echo across the river and come back to me. It's super loud. But I do that because he's walking on. He's like, he'll stop. He's like, what in the world was that? And if you'll start doing your normal call, then yeah, come on, yeah, then they'll start coming to you. So I do that loud one to stop them. Then when they're listening, I got their attention. Then I start short calling. That's when they come to me. So that bell would further impede that. And if you're in a bad situation where, you know, dogs are headed towards the road or doing something's going on, I think you need to have a little better handle on them. So I think the bells would just screw that up personally, and it might affect their hearing. So I don't use them. I just don't use them. Are they good or bad? That's a gray area. I don't know. You probably kill less dogs with them. You might kill less rabbits, and you might lose more dogs. I don't know. It's a gray area. Some people use it, some don't. I don't see the point in it. I really don't. But some people do, and if you do, good, enjoy that. So anyways, so what's the takeaway from this video? Well, the obvious point is just make 100% sure that you know what you're shooting at. That's the best thing I can say right there. And how can one correct some of these issues? Well, when I was going rabbit hunting, in the beginning, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about safety. You just get ahead of that rabbit and kill that rabbit. There wasn't a whole lot of talk about safety. Let's put it that way. And yeah. So now, like I said, if I go out with somebody new, oftentimes I'll get them up there next to the box, and I'll unload some dogs, and I'll let them sit there and pet them, and they'll talk to them, this, that, and the other. And we'll get them collared up and we'll turn them loose. And I'll just tell them, and the same thing I told you, ain't no rabbit worth a dog. So if you ain't 100% sure, just don't shoot. You know, we're out here to kill a crap ton, which, now granted I am, but I do it safely. But I say, you know, we're out here to have a good time. I said, just ain't no dog worth getting shot, you know. And I just try to let them know that, hey, this can happen. You need to be certain of your shooting. And I'm very fortunate, and I hope it never happens. I ain't trying to boast, you know, and I ain't trying nothing like that. But so far, I've never had a dog shot or anything like that, even though I've shot 2 other people's dogs. You know, I don't know. It's a messed up little area right there, gray area. But then on the flip side, them other guys would never have speeches neither. I wasn't there during the learning process. So I do think if you're going to go at it, it helps to go and talk to people a little bit and let them know, hey, these are living, breathing animals. They got names. They got their own characters. Please don't shoot them. I think that speaks volumes to people. And like I said, I've not had an issue with it yet, and I hope I never do. But I'm sure if I do it long enough and I take enough people, it's going to happen. Somebody's going to invite a friend one day. Something's going to happen. Somebody's going to show up kind of late. You know, something's going to happen. So it's just one of them things you're just going to face and understand that's going to happen one day if you do it long enough and you hunt with enough people. And when that day comes, I just hope I'm in a good enough mood that day that I can look at them and tell them not to let it affect them too much and just keep on hunting. I really do. But either way, I guess that quote right there is probably the good sum of the video right there. Just don't let it affect you too much and keep on hunting. Well, I know it's a little bit windy, so in short, yeah, I've shot dogs on accident, but I ain't done it in a great number of years at this point, and I hope I never do again. I hope I never do again. But either way, I know it's a little bit gloomy. I don't know if y'all enjoyed that or not. Hopefully y'all found it entertaining at least. But either way, y'all have a good day.